Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering as Matt squares off with Eureka versus Rob on Rug Delver. Two juggernauts of the format in my estimation. Eureka, I think one of the best decks, hugely underrated, and Rug Delver certainly doesn't have any lack of attention. Many people consider that to be the strongest deck in the format. That Mystic Sanctuary for Matt on the opening turn, a liability for multiple reasons, slow start, as well as being a vulnerable wasteland target. And now he fetches while the shields are down for Rob. Rug Delver does have potential to run Stifle, a card that can be an absolute blowout, especially when accompanied by Wasteland in terms of destroying people's mana bases. And there's no real shortage of things to stifle in the format. Just about every matchup has something that you're going to be fairly happy to stifle. Dreadhorde Arcanist met with a Impulse. I apologize for the orientation of the camera. Rob probably going to be facing to the right the entire time. Now both of these decks able to fight on the stack pretty effectively. Both running Force of Will and Daze. Daze of particular note in this matchup, and the ability to reset that Mystic Sanctuary if things get super grindy. The ability to put a show and tell that has been countered back on top of the library, potentially again and again, could be a deciding factor. But for now, Dreadhorde Arcanist is the real danger, as this is going to potentially start to generate significant card advantage. Young Pyromancer feels menacing, and it does speed up the clock, don't get me wrong. It is a welcome addition to Rob's board. But the real damage versus Eureka is going to be preventing them from just winning. So you need a clock and the necessary counter magic. Just trying to race, not going to be good enough. As they can, win on the first turn. Racing a show and tell deck is a potentially very challenging task. Daze does hit this Cunning Wish, a big 3-mana investment during the end step. Is potentially bait? We'll see. Could have been a needed card, or it could have just been bait. And Matt now running out a Naked Veil of Summer. And that puts Rob to the test. Most players are going to just Force of Will here. And now the question for Matt is, where does he go from here? Do you just jam your show and tell? And he does not. That may mean that he has another Veil of Summer in hand. Ponder pre-combat. And going to be able to get that back. Just figuring out token management here. I'm going to have a pile of Summoning Sick and tokens that are ready to attack. So Ponder number 1, and then during combat we're likely to see a second Ponder. Even if Rob has access to a Lightning Bolt, now is not likely the time. It's going to be 6 damage coming in. Another 3 would be 9. That would still leave Matt enough life to be able to activate Gristlebrand. Loki Pup of Mischief here. That's probably something you could hear in the background. I doubt my filters took that out. Filming from home today instead of the shop. His debut on the channel. And now Matt has another end step Cunning Wish. Rob brainstorming, getting an extra body, queuing up another cantrip for Dreadhorde Arcanist, and seeing what the state of his counter magic is going to be for the next turn. Now Matt finds a Veil of Summer from the sideboard and jams this Show and Tell. Rob knows that there's a Veil of Summer available. What can he do? Days will not be enough. He's going to play a Force-a-Will. Force plus Days. The Veil goes through. And what does Matt have? A land and Omniscience. What does he have to go with it? We've got a Gristlebrand. And he is just drawing the cards. 7 cards. All of them, save the lands, can be played for free. Another Gristlebrand being cast. Dazing it. Mystic Sanctuary. Putting Cunning Wish on top. Brainstorm into the Cunning Wish. Very nice line here from Matt. Into the Shared Summons to grab the Emrakul. So that Daze for Mystic Sanctuary ultimately ends up being the game-winning play, as it's able to put a Cunning Wish on top of the library. That Cunning Wish, which had been countered earlier, and gets lethal for Matt. What do you think of that game, Loki? Not bad at all. We got some fireworks here with 2 heavyweight decks. Rob leads out with a Misty Rainforest, no Delver. His win percentage is going to be higher with that first turn Delver. A lot of quality 2-drops, which kind of compete in terms of establishing your range of keepable hands. You do need a clock. You're not going to keep a hand against Eureka Tell. That's just counter magic for the most part. The counter magic is just not high enough quality in Rug Delver. I mean, Force-a-Will and Daze are tremendous cards, but they are not the type of things that stack up very well versus a kind of long, drawn-out game with no clock. Eventually, Eureka Tell is going to be able to match you card for card and potentially just have a much stronger presence on the stack because of Veil of Summer. So they can just run out a single Veil of Summer and put you in an absolutely terrible spot where you're forced to counter 1 green spells that cost 1 green mana. And your Daze is not typically going to be very effective at that. Delver of Secrets has landed for Rob. And Carpet of Flowers. This is a very legitimate Magic card. I've seen people main decking it. The dollar value of this card has gone through the roof, as has a lot of the Magic portfolio. I mean, if we're going to use that term. If you've been sitting on Magic cards, they've probably outperformed most of your other assets at this point. And Carpet of Flowers is going to be performing quite well for Matt, as he's going to have an additional 2 mana each turn. That really does punish lines with soft counters such as Daze and Spell Pierce. A Wasteland going after this tropical island, but it's really not that damaging, as Carpet of Flowers can do some incredible work toward allowing Matt to cast his spells, which often will just get worse as the game goes on. Rob may be able to manage things a little bit with Daze and fetch lands, but Cunning Wish, a 4 of in this deck, and Matt likely to be able to use this to grab a Veil of Summer. I believe he is currently keeping 1 in the sideboard. And that is a pretty significant mana advantage when you're countering 3 mana spells with a 1 mana card. Though I guess with the Carpet of Flowers, it doesn't quite feel as bad. Oh, Veil of Summer. Now this won't draw a card for Matt, but it is going to protect the Cunning Wish. We'll see what Rob does. It's a tricky spot. Force Pitch Daze. Got some high value cards getting cleared out. A Force, a Reb, and a Daze. Matt did lose that Cunning Wish, but he may not feel that bad about it. Can't really ask that much more. Delver not flipping again. That is a huge problem. Rob has another Wasteland, taking out the Trop. But Matt is totally within striking distance. And the turn's playing out similarly. Another Tropical Island. The deck running a playset of Trops. We're actually going to be giving away Tropical Island sometime this month or in March. Tons of good stuff still available on that prize wheel. Every Wednesday we're spinning it. And here's a Cunning Wish. Putting Rob to the test again. This Cunning Wish can grab a Veil of Summer in all likelihood and make Rob's future counters kinda useless. Let's see what he grabs. Oh, and a Surgical. Yeah, Surgical Extraction. I think the stock of this card goes down a little bit. I probably like Rob having a copy of it post-board. It does give you the ability to snag a Show and Tell if you do counter one. Veil of Summer being hit. And this Cunning Wish is going to end up just grabbing a Veil out of the sideboard. So Surgical does have some merit versus these AB combo decks where you have just like a Show and Tell plus or a Allurin plus. If you can snag that namesake card, it can be very, very effective. I would argue, though, that the printing of Mystic Sanctuary does take off some serious percentage points, as now you're going to be finally Delver flipping. And with Lightning Bolt, an aggressive card. The fact that they can Mystic Sanctuary at times with a fetch land in order to get the Surgical to have a invalid target on resolution, or a no target on resolution, I suppose is more accurate. And life total dwindling. 5. Rob, best be careful to not play another land. This Carpet of Flowers. So we've got 5 mana on board, 6, 7, 8. That is pretty dangerous. Mystic Sanctuary could get fetched up, but no. No, there will be no more mana for Matt as Rob picks up this game. That was getting pretty dangerous. That was getting pretty dangerous. The ability to hard cast Gristlebrand with Carpet of Flowers, a very real thing. That is the type of line you've got to look out for when you're playing against a card like Carpet of Flowers. Sometimes it can feel like, oh, my opponent has as much mana as they could possibly need. That is not always the case. Sometimes you start to open up doors which are not meant to be opened. Things like hard casting Gristlebrand or even Omniscience. Probably not Emrakul, but I mean, you do want to consider that when you're in the situation, even though it feels like, oh, my opponent couldn't possibly not be able to do whatever. they could have in their hand. There are some potential situations that you want to watch out for there. You don't want to needlessly give your opponent additional outs. A Ponder kicking things off for Matt. Basic Island. Volcanic Island, enabling the same for Rob. Now, Rob really doesn't have anything to worry about with his mana base, aside from potentially feeding into Carpet of Flowers, but he's not going to have really any options on that. All of his lands are going to be islands. Most Rug Delver lists, actually most blue-red Delver lists don't even run a mountain at last check. If so, just a single mountain. They're really not. Oh, this could be a really quick game. We have turn 1 Island, turn 2 City of Traders, but Matt just passing the turn. And that city does have a big target on it. Wasteland. And Matt jams an Impulse with a colorless floating, thanks to this city. Brainstorm for Rob. This Wasteland is in the graveyard, technically. Oh no, I thought he actually used the Wasteland. This might just be slightly inaccurate, or I might just have seen that incorrectly. No, okay. Yeah, that's... Technically, the Wasteland does go to the graveyard as part of the activation. When playing on webcam, totally reasonable to have the Wasteland visible. Not too much of a difference. And easily remedied if it does end up mattering for an effect like Surgical Extraction. Carpet of Flowers now for Matt. And this may end up being a MVP for many players who try sleeving it up over the course of a long tournament. It really does generate a huge amount of mana. Oh, and look at this. So we have a first main phase Carpet of Flowers. Go to the second main phase, enable another Carpet of Flowers. And Rob gonna be using his mana for a 2-drop here. Will it be Dreadhorde, Young Pyromancer? What do we got? Just a Delver. I am not on board with this. So right now Matt has kind of a free roll of 2 mana. I am not seeing a reason to crack that Misty Rainforest at that time. Maybe there's a shuffle or something more subtle that I missed. But that is a very real trade-off to give Matt an additional 2 mana. He has 6 to work with. 3 of it's being used for a Cunning Wish. Matt showing that his Carpet of Flowers have been used this turn by inverting them. He's got a single mana floating, but he has not played a land. A Brainstorm for Rob. Makes it seem like he wants to fight over this Cunning Wish, but Delver doesn't have a ton of options that feel great here. I mean, it's really Force of Will or no. And he will deploy a force, pitching Preordain. And those type of... Oh, wow. It's a hard cast Daze with the floating mana. Now, Matt has not played a land here, so this Cunning Wish may resolve, and we may see some further fireworks. Actually, I'm trying to think of the reason why this Daze was hard cast. I guess that means Matt has another land in hand that he plans to play, and is also not planning on winning this turn. And that is exactly it. So Getting that extra land. The good news for Rob is Matt almost certainly does not have a show and tell in hand, or else it would have been used. Or likely used. Perhaps not. Matt may be very cautious here, playing around a daze. I would generally give Rob the credit for pitching a daze to force a will in this situation, given just how dire it is. Also, the Preordain can help flip the Delver of Secrets, so... And green mana, which is something I don't think we've seen very much of from Rob here so far this match. Green allowing for Sylvan Library, also may allow for Oko later, which could be an answer to any type of onboard creature to a degree. I mean, one of the weaker lines for Eureka Tell is just show and tell in an Emrakul, and Oko can potentially handle that. Wow, this is a lot of mana. 9. So 6 and 4. We have 10 mana. These Carpet of Flowers could actually allow for a hard cast. Gristlebrand, potential Omniscience, or Emrakul. How crazy is this going to get? And these Delvers not flipping for Rob. Ponder starts looking. Rob going to need to be careful with those cards. We actually did see them on camera, which is not what we're looking for, as Matt has access to that view as well. A Wasteland being tapped here for a Dreadhorde Arcanist, leaving a single Volcanic open. I mean, I guess good thing that Wasteland's not a island, because Matt is going to have just an absolute ton of mana on his turn. Mystic Sanctuary. And we may start to see lines, very unconventional lines, given the amount of mana that's available. Matt going for an Impulse. I mean, but it would not necessarily be ridiculous for us to see something along the lines of Cunning Wish for shared summons, play shared summons, and then cast Gristlebrand. I mean, this is really, really wild, the amount of heavy lifting that these Carpet of Flowers may be able to do. Impulse digging 4 deep. I mean, Carpet of Flowers can also fix... I mean, Gristlebrand is off-color mana, so I guess I made that point, but even something like Firemind's Foresight could potentially enter into the playable lines. Things that are normally only cast off of Omniscience, but now things do pivot a little bit as Delver finally flips, and Dreadhorde Arcanist looks to get some counterplay going for Rob. Oh, but another island. Good lord. Preordain. And sending to get a free Ponder. Rob just hoping to get some counter magic in play to restrain whatever it is Matt's going to be able to do with all of this mana. I would not be surprised if this is the best Carpet of Flowers that have been on the battlefield for Matt. Going to go ahead and get 8 mana. 12 total to play with. Veil of Summer. A Brainstorm from Rob, meaning this Veil, if it resolves, will actually draw a card on top of providing protection for the rest of the turn. And Force of Negation, pitching Delver of Secrets. Matt going into his mana pool here. Potentially going to be hard casting. Yeah, hard casting a Force of Will. Still with 3 mana floating. And that will resolve. And then the Veil will draw a card. Still with 3 mana. Plus 3 lands untapped. What can he do with this? Play a land. Oh no, he's got to say go. Oh, that's brutal. Wow. And we see a Force of Will on top for Rob. He's going to be able to hard cast a Force against whatever Matt is doing. This is incredible that he's up against such a huge mana engine. So he plays that Preordained. So hard casting Force not... I was going to say not an option, but now it may be with this Volcanic Island, or with this Wooded Foothills being able to get a Volcanic Island, assuming that there's still Volks left in the deck, which is not a given. I mean, there's 3 on board. Oh, he'll have a Trop. He'll have a Trop. The wooded side of that Foothills will actually be the important one. He should be okay. Can't fetch a basic island. Dreadhorde Arcanist just reloading for Rob. And what a matchup this has been. We've seen quite a lot. Matt, at this stage, 7 life, has at most 2 turns. Very likely 1 turn left. Young Pyromancer forces the issue, telling Matt he has to move all in. There's no doubt about it. He's got to go for it now. What is he going to do with his 13 mana available to him? Just hard casting an Omniscience. Rob's going to have all sorts of answers at this stage. Pyroblast. There's still a Force of Will available. And Pyroblast actually is, I guess, exactly the type of card that I was saying Delver doesn't have a ton of. It's a great counter. Kind of proving me wrong there at the end. I mean, like Vanilla Counterspell or even Mana Drain in Vintage, just a card that feels great when you stop what your opponent is doing. Daze, Spell Pierce, those are situational. Force of Will costs you the card, but just having that ability to say no without putting yourself in any type of hole is really strong, and Rob able to draw a line in the sand there and hold the fort as he takes that one down in 3. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.